Hi, this is Chris, and I wanted to share this magazine. I have a lot of old magazines, and when I say old magazines, this is among one of the oldest ones I have. This is a magazine, it's Granite Monthly. It's a New Hampshire magazine, and it is from December 1895. I have a couple from 1894 as well, but this is a magazine here. It's kind of neat. This is the those little insert cards you see in magazines today. Well, they had them back in 1895. It's gentlemen, find enclosed money for which please send the Granite Monthly to address below for. That was proper English back then, apparently. But this is an interesting thing. Ads and everything else, and just like you'd find in a modern day magazine, except there's no perfume cards, which is great because we don't like those anyway. But this is kind of neat. I mean, this magazine is in better shape than local newspaper that I got last week, and it's from 1895. So that's kind of cool. But I also wanted to share some of these song and musician magazines. I've had these. These are sort of lyrics for songs and radio guides for what was on the radio. This on the cover or movies. This is Jimmy Stewart is on that one. That's Henry Fonda. I don't even know how to do a Henry Fonda accent. But anyway, Jimmy Stewart is. Oh, that's Rudy Valley, and he was born in Westbrook, Maine. He was the Connecticut Yankee as well. But there's Jimmy Stewart. There's Jimmy Stewart, and he is there with Paulette Goddard, who was Charlie Chaplin's one of Charlie Chaplin's wives. And here's another one. But this has like song hits, and it has the lyrics, and it also has like radio. It's almost like a TV guide, but before TV. So it was 1941 was the date. This one here is actually got a nice color cover. This is also from 1941. This is actually September 41, so it's even before World War II. And there's the typical sort of ads about women who need to like smell good for men or something. It's terrible, kind of old school. Well, not so old school, but this is an interesting one. This is what I was talking about. Here's Duke Ellington. And this is an article about the future of music, and it's written by one of the very famous critic, Leonard Feather. But this is The Future of Popular Music, it's called, by Leonard G. Feather. And it talks, and this is from September 1941, and it speculates on what music will be like in 1961, which is kind of interesting because at this point, 1961 was a long time ago, but what will the dance band of 1961 be like? Bigger and better than today's? Well, let's hope it won't be any bigger. This is when big bands were big, huge. They eventually in the 50s, due to financial constraints and everything else, big bands sort of toned it down and had less pieces, and then there was rock and roll and everything else. So. But here, I just want to read a little bit here. Basically, what Mr. Feather is saying is that Duke Ellington is the future of music, and in a way, he was right. The future of popular music. Will the war have any influence on the future of jazz? I doubt it. Now, this is even before America was in the war, which they were in. December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. European influence on jazz as a whole have been negligible. No European country has produced more than a couple of great swing musicians, and jazz remains an inherently American product in which background and environment play a vital part. The involvement of this country in the war might result in a demand for something more superficially exciting, a wilder and faster style in keeping with the hysteria of wartime show business, but it will not have any lasting effect on the character of jazz. So his assumption is that jazz music, American jazz music, or which jazz is an American music, will be the popular music forever, or at least until 1961 here. Let's see, and he also talks about if you glance through all the above conjectures, you may come to the same conclusion I've reached, that one man, and one man alone, is meeting all the qualifications necessary and treading along the right path for the jazz of the future. One man who, in 1931, was a decade ahead of his time, making music that sounds modern today. A man who, today, is writing the music of the future. If you know your jazz, you won't need to be told that I'm talking about Duke Ellington. If Duke music is the jazz of the future, we shan't have any cause to worry. And that's kind of a nice tribute to Duke. And it was true, you know, he, even when the big bands started to decline in popularity, Duke Ellington, you know, up until his death in 1974 was a huge, was the grandfather, basically, at that point, of popular music, because of the, unfortunately, popular music changed. And you know, what wasn't jazz, it was rock and roll, and other forms of music came in. But it's kind of interesting that in 1941 they were speculating about the future of music, and that the popular music, that it was going to be jazz. And as we found out, it wasn't. And also, this is a beauty ad on the back of the magazine from Maybelline, and it's kind of bizarre. But anyway, I just thought I'd say that. Okay, bye-bye.